So many years ago in 1997, I followed my girlfriend at the time across to Australia and followed her dream, not mine. And I had that moment, that horrible feeling when I got on the plane when I went to Australia with Annette in 97, in May 97, that I was following someone else's dream and not mine. I could literally feel my heart sink into my stomach. I realised that I was making a move it made no sense to me whatsoever. It wasn't my life I was following. It wasn't my dream. It was hers. I managed to create my own dream from Melbourne when she left to go to Germany, and I created a beautiful dream for 2 years all around Australia. It was amazing. It was perhaps one of the most incredible experiences of my life, and I really grew to love the Australian people and Australia as a country and as a culture. All people in Australia. Out of all the countries I've been to in the world, Australia is one of my favourites. The people, the land, the culture, just amazing. And the landscape, the topography, geography, everything about Australia is just awesome. Awesome place. So when me and Annette were in Melbourne together for about a month and a half, almost 2 months, one night we went down to work in a bar called Teriyaki Yaki. And this is the old Teriyaki Yaki, which is not, it moved from where we worked in this warehouse in Fitzroy. It was upstairs in a warehouse kind of space, like a flat apartment, where they had the old Teriyaki Yaki. And it was me and Annette worked the bar that night. I worked in the bar, Annette was doing glasses, and also working bar too. And me at the time, I'd been working bar for almost 5 years, so I was quite adept at my bar skill services. And a couple of her friends were working in the bar as well, so we managed to all work in the bar together. And that night was a big one, and I was pretty much straight edge at the time. I worked the whole night long, pouring drinks, being a glassy. Awesome nightclub. Such a great time. Amazing people. Later that night, like early hours of the morning, there was this cat with his shirt off, dancing, long hair, covered in tattoos, and had an Aztec calendar around his belly button. And he kept dancing and looking at me and pointing at me like this. I was like, what? I just walked away every time he pointed at me. He was like this. I was like, just walked away. And then eventually he came over to me and pointed at me. And he walked over to me and he goes to me, I need to tell you a story. And I was like, oh fuck, here we go. And I thought, this guy's probably off his chops on something, whatever. And he comes over to me, he's like, I'm going to tell you a story. I was like, give me a moment, bro, I'm working. I'll take a break and you can tell me a story, right? So what happened was, I had a break. I went over to this cat. He came walking over to me. He's like, can I get a glass of water? So I gave him a glass of water. I had a glass of water too. And he told me this story. Now, about, I think it was the year before, so in 1996, he and some friends had gone to South Australia and driven up to Pine Gap in the Northern Territory, sort of the border of Northern Territory and South Australia. Driven up to Pine Gap to protest the American base up there. And you get within a certain distance to Pine Gap, and there's warnings everywhere apparently, and then of course there's a fence. You can't get past a certain fenced off area. You can't get past it, and and there's cameras everywhere. So when you get to a certain point, military police come out. United States military police, by the way, come out and they stop you from getting anywhere near the base itself. And remember this: Pine Gap, only Americans can go to Pine Gap. This is on Australian soil, but only Americans can work there, and Australians can't go in there and they can't work there. Only Americans can, right? This is on Australian soil. So he told me that they got to the gates where the compound was, or Pine Gap was, and most of Pine Gap's actually underground. Most of the actual base itself is underground, right? So they get to the base, there's fences here, and for some reason, all the protesters that were there, when they get to the fence, it's actually open. And they all run out onto the base. Like they run onto the base. And him and his mate were in their car. They get out of their car and run towards the fence as it begins to close, and it closes, right? So they thought, oh fuck, we can't get into the base, right? So all his friends, all these protesters are going down towards the base, the military police coming towards them to arrest them all. And he thinks, well, we might as well just go and sit in my car and wait for everyone to come out eventually. They'll be thrown out eventually or asked to leave or whatever. Arrested. So they go back to the car. This is a few minutes later. They go back to the car and his mate gets into the driver's side, and before he gets into the driver's side, he walks past the wheel of the driver's side of the car, and this guy I'm talking to gets in the passenger side, and his mate fucking screams and looks down, and then this king brown snake moves away from the back of the tyre where it had gone to hang out behind the back of the tyre and the shade, and when the guy got into the car, it bit him on the ankle, and it slid off towards into the desert, off the road into the desert, and then the guy that was in the driver's side looked down and thought, oh fuck, it's a king brown, I'm dead. The most venomous snake in the entire world. I'm dead. And his mate, who was talking to me, looked at him and went, what the fuck? And his mate goes to him, that king brown just bit me. I'm going to die. Now, in the next 10 minutes or so, quarter of an hour, maybe 20 minutes, I'll be dead, right? I'm going to die. So this guy, the guy that was talking to me, sitting in the passenger side of the car, bursts into tears. Told me he's bawling his eyes out, right? I'm standing there with my glass of water going like, what the fuck made you want to tell me this story, dude? He's like, wait, it gets better. Wait. I was like, okay. So I know you're gonna get this, and I know you're gonna enjoy it, right? So his mate who's sitting in the car that's dying from the poison venom going through his body of this king brown snake says to the passenger side, the guy that's talking to me in the bar at Teriyaki Yaki, can I put on some music for my last few moments of life? And they're in the middle of the fucking desert, right? Pine Gap is quite a distance from Alice Springs. So, sure, find a frequency, mate, put a radio on, what else, you enjoy your last moments of life, right? So this guy tunes his radio dial, and he goes like, oh fuck, can you hear that music? What is that angelic music? And he basically sits in the car, lies back against the seat going like, oh fuck, this is incredible. Angelic music. And the guy that was talking to me in the bar, who's in the passenger seat of the car, looks at his mate and goes like, dude, that's static between stations. And the guy's like, no, can you hear that? And he's tripping out, fully like, oh my God, euphoric. He's euphoric in a sense, like the experience of what is happening to him in those moments. He's feeling this ecstasy flowing through his body, and the music sounds euphoric, he says. It's so amazing. I'm standing there and talking to this guy, holding a glass of water, going like, what the fuck? And the guy goes to me, it gets even better, he said, like, listen to this. His mate, who got bitten by the snake, the king brown snake, there wasn't enough venom in the bite to kill him. It must have given him a very small dose, then split. He said because for the next 3 days, his mate was fully hallucinating, visually, auditorily, and in every way, hallucinating, sensory, fully in the buzz, fully in the mix, like fully hallucinating for 3 days. He drove him back to where they'd come from, in South Australia, back to Adelaide. Drove back, and his mate for 3 whole days was tripping balls from king brown venom running through his body, the venom going through his bloodstream until his body, his biology got rid of it through excrement, I guess, and sweat. Far out, man. I was like, I'm standing in the bar going to this guy, what the fuck? How did you know to tell me that story, dude? It's like, I just knew. I knew when you saw my tattoo on my belly button. I knew that you knew it was the Aztec calendar. I knew that you had to hear the story. And I was just like, holy shit. And that was the most amazing story. And then he told me after this that Pine Gap was renowned for people that have travelled on the inland road between Cairns and Perth, the inland highway, they call it. There was around Pine Gap between, especially in the desert between the middle of Queensland coming to Northern Territory down to Norseman in Perth. I think it's Norseman in Perth. I'm pretty sure it's on just crossing the border between South Australia, Northern Territory, and Western Australia, Norseman. That inland highway and near Uluru at night time, it's renowned for seeing UFOs. He said if you travel that road at night on the inland highway, at some point you might see strange lights in the sky in the desert, right? Often hovering over the desert with like a triangular craft hovering over the desert at night time with red, orange, or red, green, and blue lights or blue or white lights on the corners of the triangle, which are TR3Bs, hovering over. This is a form of black budget military anti-gravity United States back-engineered aircraft, which are now renowned now. TR3Bs are renowned for being in production, flying over the desert, or other craft flying over the desert at night time. And I thought, mate, you're obviously tripping. You're obviously tripping. I mean, for me, it was like, it's could potentially happen. I don't know. I've never been there before, but I was like, wow, where did you know this stuff before? It's because I've seen them before. I've gone to the desert before, camped out, done that road, and I've seen them. So I took that knowledge home and put it on my bank, and I thought, wow, it's amazing. I have to do this road. I have to do this road between Cairns and Perth, the inland highway. I have to drive it and see these UFOs. I got to Port Douglas in July '97. I worked on a film called The Thin Red Line for 4 months, which was amazing, and the most amazing winter of my life. I'd live it again in a heartbeat. It was so much fun. I met some of the most amazing people in my life up there and had some of the most incredible experiences in Port Douglas in the winter of 1997. It was so awesome. But I met a Belgian girl there at the Wharf nightclub one night. And she told me that her and some friends were going to drive from Cairns to Perth. I said to her, hey, I told her the story about the UFOs in the middle of the desert. I said, you're going to see UFOs when you drive that road. She's like, fuck off, dude. I'm not going to see shit. You're a tripper. You're just kidding me, right? You're pulling my leg. Get fucked. No way. So what does she do? She goes off. I don't see her again. She drives off. And I don't see her. I don't talk to her. I think I'm never going to see her again, but I'm sure that she'll see something out there in the middle of nowhere. Cut to, I think it was about March, April in '98, when I was finally back in Perth. I got to Perth. I travelled all around Australia, down the east coast, around Tasmania, South Australia, around the southwestern part of Australia. Got to Perth, settled in Perth for almost over a year. Was working in a bar called International Players Lounge, and guess who walks in the door one night and asks me for a drink, right? The same Belgian girl that I'd seen in Port Douglas not quite a year before, but maybe 6 months before, maybe 6 months or 8 months before. And she goes to me, boom, on the bar, on the big marble horseshoe bar. She goes like, oh, you know what I saw in the desert last year? I was like, what? I'm busy working in the bar. She's like, no, wait, stop. Do you know what I saw? I saw UFOs. I was like, what? She's like, I saw UFOs. I said, what did you see? She said, I saw these in the distance at first. No sound, just hovering lights, like a triangle, moving through the desert at night time, of lights, blue, white, and green, traveling silently through the night, and then like a boom, like a searchlight coming down to the desert floor, moving around the desert floor, like this, moving around, and off in the distance, moving around, and then boom, was gone again, into the craft. The light turns off, into the craft, black again, and then boom, it's gone into space, straight up, it's gone. She said you saw that 3 or 4 times while she's crossing the desert, over about 4 or 5 days of crossing the desert. She saw craft at least 3 times, 4 times in that whole time going across the fucking desert. I was just like, no way. you're crazy, right? She said, no, I totally saw this. And then I knew that Pine Gap in the Australian outback, the military base, is a base, an underground base. And what's there? I don't know. But my feeling is that they definitely test experimental, back-engineered craft, experimental craft that could be Atlantean technology, it could be off-world technology, it could be breakaway civilization technology, it could be just Thomas Townsend Brown, it could be Nikola Tesla, it could be the NIMSA technology, it could be the dirigible technology, it could be any kind of technology that's not in the public black military budget aircraft that they test out there in the middle of nowhere in the desert because no one can see them. No one can, people see them, but of course the reports get dismissed. But mostly it's done incognito in the middle of nowhere, right, in the desert. And I wrote a book called Sanctum in 2001, the first draft, 2001, 2002. In that book, I make it quite clear in my visions what I saw. So part of that book's story arc takes place in the middle of Australia, in and around Uluru. I make it clear in my vision what I saw beneath Uluru in that book Sanctum. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but in the book Sanctum, I had a very strong vision of what was beneath Uluru. And it kind of makes sense to me that Pine Gap, which is just to the southeast of Uluru, I think, it makes perfect sense to me that they had built an underground base near Uluru for that particular purpose in the middle of the desert, when my vision was clear about what I saw was beneath Uluru. But to know what I saw beneath Uluru, you'll have to read Sanctum, the book that I wrote with Armand Sueño, which is on my website, Oho Ake Books, OHOAKE Books.com. And they're all ebooks, they're all EPUBs. They're not published as hard copies, or paperbacks, I should say. So if you want to know what was my perception, what I saw beneath Uluru, you'll have to buy the book and read it. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. Mate wa. I'll see you again soon.